Okay, I'm joined today by Jess Robinson from Stars in Your Ears. How are you, Jess?
I'm very, very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm excited to speak to you because, we said just before, I was looking through your back catalogue just before recording today.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. There's loads of great episodes. I listened to one quite early on, but now I need to go back and listen to all the other amazing guests you've had.
Which one have you heard?
I heard the Ramesh Ranganathan one.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Was that early on or was that kind of in the middle? I listened to
Yeah,
most
that was
things
the beginning
he
of
does.
our second series, yeah. Although we've
Okay.
only done 3 series, but yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's obviously, he pops up all over the place, but I'm still a fan. I haven't reached saturation point with Ramesh just yet. But people are going to want to hear all about your pod, of course. That's why we're here today. So I wonder, from the title, a lot of people might get a rough idea of what kind of thing it might be. But could you explain, what it is and how it came about?
Yeah, so Stars in Your Ears is an impressions podcast. But not just that. So we get different celebrities on, real life celebrities, from Ramesh Ranganathan to Rachel Parris. We've had Gareth Malone, the choir master. We've had Jess Phillips MP and Judge Rinder, who's coming up. And
Great.
I will teach them to do an impression of another celebrity. And then we'll have a sing-song. And I'm always joined by my incredible band, Jessington World of Adventures. And we do mashups at the our guest's request of, I think Rosie Jones asked for Shirley Bassey singing I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. Or, oh God, I can't remember all of the stupid things that we've done. We got Ramesh to sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm as Sonia from EastEnders in a duet with Gwyneth Paltrow, because why not?
Why not?
And I love to ask the guests why they speak in the way they do, where their accents come from, how whether it's been a conscious decision to speak in the way that they do. I'm really interested in what makes a person tick and why they sound the way they do. So it's lots of stuff about the voice and other people's voices and imitation and music, and it's just really entertaining and fun and extremely silly.
Yeah, it certainly is that. I wonder how, obviously the type of people that you've got on, entertainers, comedians, people who are used to performing in some way or another. It must be quite difficult for them to come on a podcast and have a sing-song and then also have that sort of analytical approach of, why do you talk like you do?
Why do you sound like that? Have you?
Yeah, why do you sound like a weirdo?
Yeah, I guess it's interesting because lots of the guests are so used to being interviewed, but I ask questions that they won't have been asked before about, what their influences were and whether they put on a different, consciously put on a different voice depending who they're speaking to, and when we break down their own voice. And, sort of pick it apart, and whether they're husky or nasal or throaty sounding or got a high voice, or it's really interesting. And you get to know a bit more about that person and what makes them tick, I guess.
Yeah, I find that really fascinating, especially as someone who does a podcast and, you record and you think you sound some way and then you listen back and you go, oh, is that how I talk?
Yeah.
And you have all your little paranoias and insecurities and things like that. So how did the idea come up? Because obviously with your background, I'm sure you immediately knew, I want to use my talents for my podcast. I want to do a podcast and I want to use my talents and I'm going to be doing impressions and things. How did you have lots of different ideas in the pot, or were you immediately like, no, let's get our guest to sing as well?
I believe that anybody can do an impression and anybody can sing. And it's all a matter of just breaking it down not everybody's going to sing like Catherine Jenkins, but thankfully, but I think it's all a matter of knowing where to start and how to do it. And I used to, in a past life, I used to teach singing, and so I've got that slight sort of teaching background, and I really enjoy I enjoy putting people on the spot, but I also enjoy seeing them progress. And I thought it would be fun to put a celebrity in a slightly vulnerable position like that and see if they can be somebody else famous. So, but the idea came about, well, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I really wanted to do a podcast, but it's so difficult to pin my band down because they're all musicians and they're all, you know, doing different gigs here and there. And then lockdown came along. My dad died, and I wanted so desperately to throw myself into something fun and positive and completely, like, just, you know, block all of that stuff out. And so I played the death card with my band and said, help me, come on, we've got to do something. You're not doing anything now. And they were like, okay, Jess, we're here for you. And that's when it started, and I roped them in. Thank you, Daddy.
Okay.
So...
we haven't had that origin story before. I like it.
Yeah, it's like the Saturday night shiny floor studio show I've always wanted to make, with impressions and chat and silly sketches and things like that, and music, just in podcast form. And I think it really comes across as just pure entertainment.
Oh, definitely. And it's something that I could imagine translating onto proper Saturday night entertainment, whether that was on TV, but, you know, live. Is that something you've considered, taking this up on stage? Because I can imagine a live crowd getting really into it.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. I do in our live shows. We often get someone from the audience onto the stage and teach them to do an impression, and, you know, and they are an absolute hero. Usually, the rest of the audience goes wild. Not just in admiration, but probably also relief that it's not them. But it's so much fun, and we get the audience in our live shows to, you know, shout out names of celebrities and different songs, and we'll do a random pairing then and there. And 100% sort of the live show feeds into the podcast and the podcast feeds into the live show. But it would be great. We haven't done any live podcast recordings yet, so that's something I'd love to do.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's, you know, various different up and coming podcast festivals that are getting booked in for this year. So yeah, I might, you know, I think you should do it. I think you should get yourself booked at every one of those, because I think, like, you know, there are a lot of podcasts that do well live, even when it's just one person sitting in a chair with another person and they're just having a conversation. But I like the idea of you kind of being like the headline act when everybody's been there all day. They've listened to a lot of serious chat, and then they need some
light relief.
The light relief, exactly.
With all the bells and whistles. I mean, there's nothing really very deep in the podcast. We don't talk about politics or very, I don't know. It's escapism. It's a bubble of joy.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah,
that's what people need. You need a mix with your podcast. You can't just listen to all the heavy stuff. You do. So, I mean, a lot of people will notice that some people will be searching for the podcast right now to subscribe and download some episodes, and they will see that you've got the little gold award, British Podcast Awards Gold Award for 2021, little icon on the front cover. How did that happen? What was that for? What category?
That was for Best Entertainment Podcast, which is amazing. It was our second series. I mean, I had been on a couple of podcasts before, but I am still really a complete novice. I don't really know amazingly how the industry works. We're completely self-produced. We don't have anyone earning any money or anything like that at the moment, which is hard to sustain. It's all just produced through the joy of it, and with a wonderful guy called Joe Walker, who is a sound engineer for the Horn Section podcast.
Perfect.
So he sort of knows how to make it and do all the uploading and sort of what needs to be done. But really, I had no idea. So, and in a way, I guess that helped in a way of not having anyone to go, I don't think that's possible. So doing a huge musical production number in every single podcast, there was no one to tell us that that's not really very feasible. So we did it, and I think that's what helped us get the entertainment award, because I think the judges are bowled over by the sound production and by the production values and how original it was. So that was very cool. It was an amazing surprise. It felt like validation. Yeah,
it was amazing to be able to have, number one, gold award winner on your artwork. That will always be a nice boost. But I think you're right. It's just such a different idea, and it would have been interesting if you'd been in a position where you were sort of suggesting that to established podcast production companies. A lot of them may well have thought that could be logistically difficult, or might cost us a lot of money. Maybe let's tone it down a touch. So it's quite cool to come to something fresh with just you and your band and doing what you want to do. So cool. So you do it in series, which I guess totally makes sense, because to do that weekly would be quite an ask, especially of the band. You can't always go back to that card that you pulled.
No, I would say each podcast, each episode would probably be about 4 or 5 hours work for us all, just in writing, mixing. Well, actually, no, not even the mixing, the writing and the recording of it all. There's such a lot that goes into the arranging, all of that, the composing, all of that. So it's a bit bonkers. It's not really a money-making machine, is it?
Well, no, I mean, maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it sounds as if you love it and you do it for the passion of it, and it's something that you're gonna keep going with.
Yeah,
big plans
100%.
to keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Okay, Jess. Well, thank you for coming on the Pod Bible podcast to discuss. I'm sure there'll be loads of people who have been listening to all the political pods, been listening to all the documentaries. I've had some hard-hitting conversation podcasts in their ears for the last few weeks, and just think I need some light relief. And it sounds to me as if Stars in Your Ears is definitely the podcast they should be checking out.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.